police arrived at 4228 Willow Creek Drive just before midnight on a Tuesday in mid-September. The kind of night where the air still held summer's warmth but carried the first whisper of autumn. Cool enough to leave windows cracked, quiet enough to hear a scream travel. Claire Morgan lay dead on her back patio, surrounded by overturned furniture and shattered glass. 17 stab wounds, blood pooling in the grout lines between stone tiles, reflecting the dim glow of the porch light she'd left on for safety. Standing over her body was David Brennan, 43, divorced, neighborhood watch coordinator. The man everyone on Willow Creek Drive trusted with their spare keys and alarm codes. He had his phone pressed to his ear, still connected to 911, hands trembling as officers approached. "I tried to stop him," David said, voice breaking. "I heard her screaming. I came over. There was a man. He was stabbing her. I tried to grab him, but he ran." The officers searched the yard, the park beyond, the surrounding streets. They found no one. Because there was no one. Claire's boyfriend, Marcus Hayes, was 300 miles away at a sales conference in Phoenix. Hotel security footage and witness statements confirmed he'd been there all weekend. The only person who'd entered Claire Morgan's home that night was the man who claimed he was protecting her. So how does a trusted neighbor, a man whose entire identity revolved around keeping people safe, become a killer? And how does protection rot into possession when the person you're watching tells you to stop? To understand, you have to go back to where it started. A moving day in late March, a friendly face offering coffee, and a woman who thought a neighborhood watch meant she'd finally found somewhere safe. Claire Morgan moved to Riverside Heights with 2 suitcases, a used Honda Civic, and a restraining order still warm in her glove compartment. Her ex had shown up drunk at her old apartment twice, once at 2 a.m, pounding on the door until neighbors threatened to call police. The second time, he'd left roses on her windshield with a note that made her stomach turn. "You can't hide from me." So she stopped hiding and started running. Riverside Heights was supposed to be different. Tree-lined streets where kids drew chalk rainbows on driveways. Neighbors who waved from porches and actually meant it. The kind of place where people looked out for each other, or so the realtor had promised. Claire worked as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized tech firm, splitting her time between the office and home. She kept to herself for those first few weeks, unpacking boxes and learning which coffee shop had the shortest lines on Tuesday mornings. She wasn't looking for friends. She was looking for quiet. By summer, she'd started dating Marcus Hayes, a sales manager she met through mutual friends at a backyard barbecue in June. He was kind, patient, didn't ask too many questions about why she always checked the locks twice or why she flinched when someone came up behind her too quickly. He traveled for work, stayed over on weekends when his schedule allowed, and never once made her feel like she owed him an explanation for the walls she'd built. Claire thought she was rebuilding, slowly, carefully, one quiet morning at a time. She thought a neighborhood watch meant protection. She never realized it could mean surveillance, that the helpful neighbor offering to keep an eye on things meant never stop looking. That the man 2 houses down with the laminated emergency contact card and the Ring cameras on every corner was documenting her life like a specimen under glass. Claire Morgan moved to Riverside Heights to feel safe. Instead, she moved next door to the man who would kill her. David Brennan arrived on Claire Morgan's doorstep one Thursday morning carrying a thermos and a laminated card with emergency numbers, his own circled in red. "Call me first," he said. "Police take 20 minutes. I'm 2 houses down." Claire thanked him, thinking he was just being neighborly. She had no idea he'd already noted her license plate, her lack of a wedding ring, and the exact time her lights flipped on and off each day. Since his wife left, accusing him of turning their home into an interrogation chamber, David had turned his scrutiny outward. Ring cameras on his corners, daily walks with his German Shepherd, logs tracking teen curfews, open garages, arguments caught through windows. The neighborhood watch gave his vigilance purpose. When Claire moved in, it gave him focus. His first texts seemed harmless. "Saw a package on your porch, moved it to avoid theft. Noticed your bedroom light at 2 a.m. You okay?" Her polite thanks became shorter as his messages picked up pace. By summer, every new routine was cataloged. "Saw you leave early, everything all right? Your car's in the same spot for 3 days, everything okay?" The tone shifted when Marcus started saying over, "New car in your driveway, friend visiting?" She sidestepped the question. He pressed again the next week, then the next. Once Claire found a David in her backyard, just checking the fence latch. He lied when caught. It looked loose. It wasn't. She told Marcus she was starting to feel uneasy. He told her to draw a line, so she did. Her text was firm. "Thanks for everything, but I'm good. No need to check in so much." David read it and it went silent. 2 days later, rocks appeared in her mailbox, trash scattered in her driveway, deep scratches on her car paint. When Claire reported the vandalism, David was the first to offer help. "Let me put up a camera, just want to make sure you're safe." She agreed, not realizing he also installed the hidden camera in a decorative birdhouse facing her bedroom window. For weeks, he logged every movement in a black leather notebook. June 15th, light on until 2:18 a.m., alone. July 8th, no reply to texts. September 10th, boyfriend leaving, she's vulnerable. The last entry is dated the day she died. Tonight, make her understand. That evening, David slipped a kitchen knife into his pocket, wrapped it in a dish towel, and stepped outside. Down the sidewalk, his eyes fixed on Claire's porch lights and the shadowed gap of her side gate, finally locked, but not for long. Claire Morgan poured herself a glass of Merlot just after 11 on a Tuesday night. The house felt too empty with Marcus traveling, so she left the back patio slider cracked open. Cool September air drifted through the kitchen, carrying the scent of jasmine from next door. She scrolled through her phone, half watching a true crime documentary on her laptop. The irony wouldn't hit her until it was too late. Outside, hidden in the shadows near the fence line, David Brennan had been standing for over 20 minutes, watching the light from her kitchen spill into the patio stones, watching her silhouette move behind the glass. He'd rehearsed what he'd say, how he'd make her understand she'd been wrong to push him away. The knife in his jacket pocket was just insurance, a prop to show her how real the danger could be. At least that's what he told himself. He didn't knock. He walked through the side gate and stepped onto her patio. Claire heard the footsteps and turned. Her stomach dropped. "David, what are you doing here?" He held up his phone. "Got an alert from your camera. Thought I saw someone in your yard." Claire's jaw tightened. She set down her wine glass. "I didn't ask you to come over. I'm just trying to help." "I don't need your help anymore." Her voice was firm, final. "I want you to leave." David stepped closer, the friendly mask cracked. His voice dropped, cold, mechanical. "You don't get to decide when I leave." What happened next lasted less than 3 minutes. Claire backed toward the house. David moved faster, blocking the slider. She tried to push past him. He grabbed her wrist. She screamed. The wine glass shattered. A patio chair tipped over. Claire kicked hard, clawed at his face. Her nails drew blood across his cheek. For a moment, she thought she might escape. Then, David pulled the knife. The first stab caught her in the shoulder. She gasped. The second hit her side. She fell, hands scrambling against the cold tiles. David stood over her, breathing hard, the knife slick in his hand. Claire tried to crawl toward the door. He stabbed her again and again. By the time he stopped, Claire had 17 wounds. She lay motionless, blood pooling in the dim porch light. David stared at her body for 30 seconds. Then, with chilling calm, he pulled out his phone. When the 911 dispatcher answered, David's voice was steady. "I need help at 4228 Willow Creek Drive. I heard screaming. When I came over, there was a man attacking my neighbor. I tried to stop him, but he ran." "Can you describe the attacker?" "White male, mid-30s, tall, maybe 6 feet, dark hoodie. He took off toward the park." "Is the victim conscious?" David looked at Claire's body. "No, she's not moving. There's a lot of blood." He sat on the curb when patrol cars arrived, hands visible, face pale. He looked traumatized, like a good Samaritan who tried to help and failed. "I heard her screaming," he told the officer. "I ran over. He was stabbing her. I tried to grab him, but he pushed me and ran." But Officer Mendez noticed David's shoes were clean, no mud, no grass stains, and the blood on his hands wasn't splattered. It was smeared and thick. By the time Detective Janelle Ortiz arrived just after 1 a.m., she knew she wasn't looking for an intruder. She was looking at him. Detective Janelle Ortiz stood on Claire Morgan's patio at 2 a.m, studying the scene under harsh crime scene lights. 23 years in homicide had taught her one thing: blood doesn't lie, but people do. The blood splatter painted an arc of desperation. Claire had been backing away, cornered, fighting for her life. Not attacked from behind, not saved by a heroic neighbor. Ortiz looked at the forensic tech. If David intervened during an attack, where's the second struggle? Where's the attacker's DNA under her nails? She already knew the answer. At the station, David repeated his story with mechanical precision. Same details, same timeline, same phantom attacker. Ortiz leaned forward, placing a tablet on the table. We pulled the footage from the Gable house across the street. We watched for the man in the dark hoodie running away. David nodded quickly. He was fast. He might have cut through the back. He didn't, David. The back fence sensors never tripped, and the street cameras didn't see anyone leave. Ortiz tapped the screen. But they did see someone arrive. David froze. 20 minutes before the 911 call, a shadow moves along the hedge line. It sticks perfectly to the darker side of the street, avoiding the motion floodlights. It moves exactly through the 3-foot blind spot between the Gable's doorbell camera and the street lamp. She looked him dead in the eye. It was a blind spot you pointed out to Miss Gable when you helped her install that system last year. You didn't just walk over there, David. You navigated the grid. David's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Try again, David. The search warrant came through at dawn. Forensic teams found the notebook first. Ortiz stood in David's home office, flipping through pages of obsessive documentation. Every entry dated, every movement logged. June 15th, bedroom light stays on until 2:18 a.m., alone. September 10th, boyfriend leaving for trip. She'll be vulnerable. The final entry was dated September 14th. Tonight, make her understand. When a tech called from outside, "Detective, you need to see this." The decorative birdhouse yielded a tiny camera, SD card full of footage. Claire getting dressed, sleeping, intimate moments with Marcus, all time-stamped, all saved. But the final piece sealed David's fate. He thought he'd scrubbed his system clean, emptying his digital trash bin, believing the files were gone. He was wrong. Digital forensics recovered the deleted data from his hard drive. The retrieved files showed footage from 3 nights before the murder. Crystal clear video of David walking to Claire's driveway at 2 a.m., pulling a screwdriver from his pocket and scratching 3 deliberate lines into her car door. He'd manufactured the danger to keep her dependent. When confronted, David's lawyer advised silence, but David couldn't help himself. "I was protecting her," he said, voice rising. "She didn't understand. I had to make her see." Ortiz cut him off. "You stabbed her 17 times, David. That's not protection. That's murder." The courtroom was packed when District Attorney Veronica Talbot delivered her opening statement. She didn't need to raise her voice. "David Brennan wants you to believe he was a protector, but the evidence will show you a predator who used the neighborhood watch as cover to stalk, surveil, and ultimately murder a woman whose only crime was telling him no." The prosecution built their case methodically. Forensic experts testified about blood patterns. The medical examiner described 17 stab wounds consistent with sustained intentional violence. Then came the surveillance footage. The courtroom sat in horrified silence as the prosecution played clips from the hidden camera. One juror covered her mouth. Another looked away. But it was David's own testimony that sealed his conviction. "Did you love Claire Morgan?" Talbot asked during cross-examination. "She needed me." "Did you love her?" His jaw clenched. "She didn't have the right to shut me out. I kept her safe. I watched over her." By stalking her, by filming her through her bedroom window. David's face flushed. "You don't understand. None of you understand. She needed me." The jury deliberated 4 hours. Guilty. Life without parole. As bailiffs led David out from the courtroom in chains, he turned to look back, not at Clara's family, but at the gallery where neighbors sat watching. His eyes found a woman taking notes. David smiled. Small. Unsettling. As if to say, someone's still watching. Riverside Heights disbanded its neighborhood watch program. Claire's family started a foundation for stalking awareness. Marcus Hayes moved across the country, unable to bear living where Claire died. He keeps one thing. Her final text message sent the afternoon she was murdered. "I feel like I'm being watched. I just want one quiet night." David Brennan sits in a maximum security prison. Guards say he's a model prisoner, polite, respectful, always following rules. But they also say he watches, constantly. From his cell window, he tracks movements of guards, notes their schedules, documents their routines. Old habits die hard. The neighborhood watch was supposed to keep Claire Morgan safe. Instead, it gave her killer the perfect disguise, a concerned neighbor who cared just a little too much. Until care became obsession. Obsession became possession, and possession became murder. Sometimes the person offering to protect you is the one you need protection from. If this story left you unsettled, hit that like button. It helps more people find these twisted tales. Subscribe to Wicked Crime Stories for dark, realistic crime stories that blur the line between fiction and a nightmare. We drop new cases every week. Thanks for watching. Stay wicked.